When it comes to reciting the Quran, every little detail matters. And today, we're going to dive into one that's super important, but honestly, often gets overlooked: the art of the start. Think about it. We spend so much time on how we read the Quran, the pronunciation, the melody. But have you ever stopped to think about where you begin after you take a breath? What if I told you that the very first word you choose could either protect the divine message or completely corrupt it? Yeah, it's a whole science, and the implications are huge. So this whole idea has a name. It's called al-ibtida, which is just Arabic for the initiation or the beginning. It's a core rule in tajweed, the science of reciting the Quran. And just to be clear, we're not talking about starting from the beginning of a surah. We're talking about how to correctly restart your recitation after any pause you take. Okay, so with al-ibtida, you've basically got two paths you can take: the right way to start and the wrong way. And trust me, as we're about to see, this isn't just some minor detail or a matter of style. It is absolutely critical for keeping the meaning intact. So on one hand, you have the proper way, al-hasan. This means you're starting with a phrase that makes sense on its own and, most importantly, keeps the intended message of Allah. But then there's the improper path, al-qabih, which does the complete opposite. A start like that can accidentally twist, corrupt, or, even completely reverse the meaning. All right, but here's where it gets really interesting. A proper start isn't just one thing. It actually has different levels of, perfection. It's not just a simple yes or no, pass or fail. So let's break down these three levels of what makes a good beginning. Okay, top of the list, the best of the best, is called at-tam, which means the complete. This is the gold standard for sure. It's when you start reciting at a spot that's completely independent of what came before it, both in grammar and in meaning. It's kind of like starting a fresh new paragraph in a book. A perfect example of this is right in Surah Al-Baqarah. You see, the first few verses are talking all about the qualities of believers. But then you get to verse 6, and it completely pivots to a new subject: those who disbelieve. See? You don't need any context from verse 5 to perfectly understand verse 6. The topic just completely shifts. That makes it an absolutely ideal place to start your recitation if you've paused. All right, next up we have al-kafi, which translates to the sufficient start. Now, this is still a totally proper way to begin, but there's a little nuance here. The phrase you start with is grammatically separate, but it's still connected in meaning to what you just read. Let's stick with al-Baqarah and just look at the very next verse, verse 7. This part describes what happens to the disbelievers we just heard about in the previous verse. So here's the key. When the verse says their hearts, their hearing, or for them, who is them? Well, it's those disbelievers from verse 6, right? So the meaning is totally linked, even though it's a new sentence grammatically. And that's what makes it a sufficient start. Make sense? And last but not least, for the proper starts, we've got al-hasan, or the good. This one is also perfectly fine, but it's tied even more closely to what came before. The connection isn't just about meaning anymore, it's grammatical too. It's almost like you're picking up right in the middle of a sentence. So, for example, let's say a reciter pauses after the words "so that you may give thought," and then they start back up with "in this world and the hereafter." See how they're just completing the original thought? That's a good start. It keeps the meaning flowing, even though you're essentially jumping back in mid-sentence. Okay, so we've covered the good ways to begin, but now we have to talk about the wrong way, al-kabih. And we really need to understand why getting this wrong is, so incredibly serious. And look, this isn't just about sounding a little awkward or, breaking the rhythm of your recitation. A bad start can accidentally give the text a meaning that isn't just wrong, but can actually be blasphemous. The stakes here are just incredibly high. Okay, let's take a look at this really powerful verse from Surah Al-Ma'idah. What's happening here is it's quoting a terrible, blasphemous thing that some people said. And then, right away, the verse refutes it and condemns them. So you can see the context is absolutely everything. Now, just imagine a reciter pauses for a breath and then decides to start reading again right at the phrase, "the hand of Allah is chained." By pulling just that piece out of the verse, it's no longer a quote of something bad someone else said. It sounds like a statement of fact. This right here is what's called a severely improper start. And why is it so bad? Because you're taking a statement that the Quran is actively condemning and you're presenting it completely out of context. It makes it sound like you're attributing this awful quality directly to God, which goes against the very core of the faith. It completely flips the verse's meaning on its head. So you see, these rules aren't just some dusty academic thing for scholars. They're absolutely essential for anyone and everyone who reads the Quran. The whole point of all this is to protect the divine message and keep it in its purest form. So let's do a quick recap of the proper starts. Remember, complete means no connection at all. Sufficient is connected by meaning, but not grammar. And good is connected by both meaning and grammar. Any of these three are a safe way to go, respecting the way the text is built. When you get right down to it, these rules of al-ibtida are like a vital guardrail. They're this practical system passed down for centuries to make sure that when we recite these divine words, we're actually saying what was intended, without accidentally twisting or corrupting it. It really is about having respect for the text, right down to the very first word you choose after a pause. You know, this level of precision is just incredible, isn't it? It shows you this hidden, deeper structure within the text that's all designed to protect its meaning. And that really leaves you with a big question, doesn't it? If just the place you begin reading is this important, what other amazing principles might be out there shaping how we hear and understand these sacred words?